When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Greasecom Jr. channel. Today's video, we're going to be talking about where I think Dany is going to go in Winds, and even further into in Dream of Spring. I have done this video before, so this is going to be kind of a revisit video, and how my opinions may have changed on Dany, or what maybe I thought will happen differently. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel reach other people that might like this content as well. And let's get into the video. So starting with Dany, we have to look at kind of where she is right now in Dance, and I think the most obvious thing is she's going to come back with probably the Dothraki. I think she does something similar to the show, where I think the beginning of what the show did with Dany's character is probably correct, where she comes back with the Dothraki and kind of helps solve this little, invasion or whatever on Meereen. And I guess this is an unpopular opinion, but I actually think Barristan is going to live the Battle of Meereen. I know that some people believe he's going to die. I just think it'd be much better if Barristan was saved as kind of a character if George was going to use the Mad Queen, which I think is possible. I'm very split on it. I have two varying opinions on if she will go mad, because I think thematically it would work in the story. There's not enough evidence yet. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying he definitely could. There's a lot of things that could set that up in the future. But I could also see where he doesn't go that route and kind of goes a different route. But with this being said, I think Dany comes back, and once she, retakes Meereen and all that, I think this is where Dany kind of decides, hey, it's time to go to Westeros. The people of Slaver's Bay really don't want me here, but I think she's still going to try and at least conquer parts of Essos. And I think she's going to stay there for a bit. Not as in stay in Meereen, but I mean kind of conquer a bit in Essos before she comes over to Westeros. Because she will at this point have the Greyjoy fleet, we're assuming, from Victarion. I think Victarion will end up dying in this next book. I think either that's by betraying Daenerys, trying to get the dragon using, Dragon Binder, or just kind of being a bad dude and Daenerys decides to just get rid of him. But I think either way, she will get the Iron Fleet from Victarion. Now, with this being said, we also have Tyrion who will be there, who I do think will become the Hand of the King, or Queen. I think that is very likely in this scenario. And I think Tyrion will kind of play the role of being the devil on her shoulder, where he may feed into her worst impulses. And I think Daenerys, for the most part, I think the arc of Winds of Winter is going to be where she is kind of preparing for war on Westeros. She's getting all of her forces ready. And I think it will involve her kind of invading a lot of the other cities in Essos. And I think by the end of the book, I think the last chapter will be somewhere where Daenerys is like, she either reaches Westeros, like she kind of sets her first foot onto Westeros, maybe that's in Dragonstone, maybe that's somewhere else, or it's kind of her setting sail to Westeros, and we'll start a Dream of Spring with Daenerys coming to Westeros. So that is kind of where I see Daenerys in Winds of Winter. I think that is going to be the main part of her arc in the Winds of Winter. Now, the interesting part's going to be when we get into a Dream of Spring, because I think a Dream of Spring, we're going to have a lot of interesting things going on with Daenerys. I think there's two routes that we go with this. If you're George, there's one route where you go, okay, let's deal with the threat of the others first, and then deal with who takes the crown second. Kind of what they did in the show, but it would be a different scenario, because I think Aegon will be on the throne when Daenerys is the one to come over. So the thing is going to be, does George look to resolve that conflict first or second? I think he probably has to resolve that conflict first. I think you have to kind of figure that out, because Daenerys, I don't see a scenario where she just decides to go north. I think there's going to be a lot to accomplish within Winds of Winter to be even able to set up a situation where Jon is able to go to Daenerys or something like that. I think Daenerys is going to be focused on retaking, King's Landing and conquering all that stuff, because I think she's going to inevitably figure it out that Aegon is not really a Targaryen, he's a Blackfyre. Now, this is where I think you could really kind of go the Mad Queen route if you wanted to. I've said that in the past. I think that is going to happen with Daenerys. After thinking about it for a while, I just don't think George has enough time to do that. I think it's adding in another plot that may or may not be a good thing, because I think Aegon and Daenerys resolving that entire conflict could take up a decent amount of Dream of Spring, to where if you add on another element of there being a Mad Queen situation with Daenerys, that you have to resolve that as well. I think it's just unlikely, unless I'm wrong on where she goes into Winds with Winter, and that actually her plot gets a lot quickened, like she comes over to Westeros a lot sooner than I think. But I think she deals with Aegon, and I think she will have some sort of trauma out of that, because of just seeing how Aegon is kind of treated as this character that is almost a hero type figure for King's Landing and all that, because Aegon's going to be coming in as someone who is relieving the people of King's Landing from Cersei's rule, who has been terrible for them the last few years. And I think the normal population thinking Aegon is a Targaryen, being the restoration of the Targaryens with kind of the help of Varys and all that, and making that easier, I think he's very much going to be looked at as a hero, and I think Daenerys is going to be looked at very much as an outsider, a kind of a greedy ant, or a spiteful kind of ant that is trying to rob Aegon of his rightful throne, when in reality, Daenerys is the actual rightful ruler, because Aegon actually isn't a Targaryen. And I think that's a struggle we're going to see with Daenerys. And I think, similar beats of what we saw on the show with Daenerys, where Daenerys is going to be constantly dealing with, should I just start using the dragons and kind of trying to just burn cities to the ground if they rebel against me, or and stuff like that, I think will definitely be a big part of Daenerys' story going into Westeros. And I think what's going to end up happening is, I think Daenerys does end up doing something where she is kind of backed into this role where she kind of has to at least burn part of King's Landing, or she has to attack it with Drogon, with her army. And maybe this is because she thinks that it's going to save lives for her armies trying to rush the capital, as well as having the Golden Company there and the Dornish. This would actually be a fairly almost even fight when it comes to army size. So I think Daenerys seeing that could go, okay, it would make a lot more sense for Daenerys to kind of use the dragon, and maybe something goes wrong. Maybe while she's trying to break key things in the city, wildfire goes off of caches of wildfire, and we kind of see that kind of play out. In the end, I think Daenerys will end up kind of winning and taking the crown. And that's when I think Daenerys' plot will turn to the north. I think Daenerys with Jon, meeting Jon at some point. Now, what I think could be interesting is that there might not have to be any convincing that the others are here. Maybe by the point that Daenerys has taken the throne, we already see that the others are kind of coming into Westeros, right? Because I think at the end of Winds of Winter, another thing we could see is that either the wall is blown down or the others attack the wall in some regard. I think the others will make an appearance at the end of Winds of Winter and being the first conflict. And I think we're going to see kind of this whole idea where, as Daenerys is invading Westeros, the southern part, we'll see the others kind of invading the northern part. So by the time Daenerys is kind of settled in, she's taking King's Landing, she may not get any rest, really. I mean, you're going to have to go right back into war, because let's say the others pretty much take all of the north and they're kind of being held at maybe the neck or something like that, and Daenerys is called to fight. Now, Daenerys plus Jon, I think at this point, right, the others have taken so much at this stage already and are probably still going to overpower the forces of Westeros still available at this point. And I think there's going to be some sort of peace deal made. I'm not going to go too far into this because it is a Daenerys type video, but I could definitely see Daenerys having to be sacrificed in some sort of like a Azor Ahai type situation. I don't think Daenerys is going to end up on top ruling in the end. I think she is going to die, whether that be in the fight with the others or being some sort of type of sacrifice, because, again, we've heard constantly this theme of king's blood being very important and sacrifices being very influential. Maybe Daenerys, she has the Mad King's blood. would be someone that ends up getting sacrificed in some way or another to either make peace with the others, or maybe they have to sacrifice her to defeat the others. I definitely think that Daenerys' story ends with her death. I don't think she's going to get a happy ending where she reigns on the throne, or she goes back to Essos maybe and lives at the Red Door, which I think would be kind of cute, because, you know, Daenerys' character kind of feels like her entire life she never has a home, really. And I don't think she's going to find it in Westeros either. I think the Red Door is brought up so much in her POV chapters because that was the one place she felt like she was at home. So for me, that really could be what ends up happening with Daenerys, that she goes in this conflict with the others and it doesn't really go that well. I haven't talked too much about kind of the other characters surrounding Daenerys because it is a Daenerys video. But if you guys want to see me kind of review some of the other major characters that I've probably already done on the channel, but if you want me to revisit them and kind of look at how my opinions maybe have changed, because if you look at my opinions from my first Daenerys video to this one, because my first Daenerys video was one of my first Song of Ice and Fire videos just in general. I think it was one of my first 5 that I did, but my opinions definitely have changed. I used to be somebody that liked the Mad Queen quite a bit. I'm not a big of a fan now, just kind of looking at where the story has to go, and if George wants to introduce more elements that would make the story quite longer when it comes to Daenerys and how they would kind of resolve this Mad Queen thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think Mad Queen Daenerys is going to happen? Do you think that Daenerys is going to live? What do you guys think for Daenerys? But let me know, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.